My selfish, spoiled daughter hid my wife's affair and backed her up. So, I filed for divorce and cut her out of my will. I, 47M, an average middle-class American man who spent decades working as a mid-level manager in a manufacturing firm, never thought I'd find myself in a position like this. I've always been the type to keep my head down, do my job, support my family. I married in my late 20s, worked steady hours, paid the bills, and took pride in providing for my household. My daughter is now 20, supposed to be studying for her future, forging her own path. But everything I believed about family loyalty, respect, and honesty came crashing down recently, and it's all tied to the deceit lurking under my own roof. It started 3 months ago on a Saturday morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table, going over utility bills and sipping coffee. My wife passed through, busy texting someone. I noticed how distracted she'd been for weeks. Coming home late, wearing expensive perfume that I never bought her, smiling at messages she guarded fiercely. She'd grown distant, snapping at me if I asked about her day. I tried to dismiss my suspicions, thinking maybe work stress had gotten worse. But that morning, she left abruptly to run errands, and my daughter strolled into the kitchen with a too innocent smile. My daughter had that certain air about her lately, always wanting money, making demands, calling me old-fashioned when I didn't cave to her requests. That day, she asked if I could spot her a few $100s. She claimed she needed new textbooks. I told her we'd already spent a fortune on her supplies. Instead of understanding, she rolled her eyes and said, "You're just holding me back." I felt uneasy. Something in her attitude hinted she knew more than she let on. As days passed, I noticed odd exchanges. My daughter and my wife whispering after dinner, abruptly stopping when I appeared. My wife's phone would buzz late at night, and she'd rush off to the guest bedroom to talk. The tension thickened, and I knew I had to find out what was going on. About 2 weeks later, an opportunity fell into my lap. My wife left her cell phone on the counter while she went upstairs. A message popped up, a man asking if she was free that evening. My blood ran cold. I shouldn't have looked further, but I did. Scrolling through, I discovered a series of explicit, flirtatious conversations spanning months. They joked about meeting at hotels, about how they had to keep it secret from me. My wife was cheating. The shock rattled me. But what twisted the knife deeper was seeing my daughter's involvement. She'd sent a text from her own phone to my wife's lover. "Keep it quiet. I've got your back." My father's clueless. She knew. She'd known all along, and instead of telling me, she helped cover it up. She was even helping her mother schedule these affairs behind my back. I confronted my wife that very night. She acted outraged that I looked at her messages, tried to flip it on me, accusing me of invading her privacy. My daughter chimed in, "Yeah, that was wrong. You have no right," as if I was the villain. Neither expressed any remorse. Instead, my daughter demanded I let it go and keep providing for them. My wife threatened that if I tried to divorce her, she'd take me for every penny. I realized then that I was surrounded by pure entitlement. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a carefully orchestrated manipulation, and my daughter was just as guilty as my wife. In the following days, I tried to reason with them. At dinner, I calmly said, "We need to talk about what I found." My wife played dumb, poking at her plate, while my daughter sighed dramatically. When I pushed, my daughter snapped, "What's your problem? Mom's happy. Why can't you just deal with it?" My wife just shrugged and said, "You have a good life. A roof over your head, a solid job. Don't ruin this with drama." My heart pounded in my chest. It was as if my family didn't care about basic decency. My daughter, the one I raised, the one I worked overtime to support, tuition, clothes, electronics, now stared at me like I was the obstacle to their comfort. She was fully on her mother's side. My wife smiled faintly, as if she knew they held power. They assumed I'd do nothing, that I'd be too afraid to dismantle the status quo, too weak to act. That's when I knew I had to act decisively. I visited a lawyer the next morning. I explained the affair, the texts, the daughter's involvement. The lawyer listened carefully. "In our state, Divorce is no fault, so the affair wouldn't necessarily grant me everything. But he said the evidence of deceit and manipulation could influence negotiations. For my daughter, who was an adult, I owed no legal duty to keep her in my will. My assets, my estate, I could decide their future freely. The lawyer advised me to protect my finances, start moving money into accounts only I controlled, ensure my paychecks no longer directly funded my wife's personal spending. He told me I could file for divorce whenever I was ready. With his guidance, I began quietly preparing. At home, my wife and daughter grew bolder. My wife openly left for evenings out, claiming book club or girls' night, knowing I knew the truth. She didn't care. My daughter demanded a new laptop. When I refused, she sneered, "Maybe mom's friend can help. He's more generous anyway." That stung. She was using the lover as a bargaining chip, mocking my role as a provider. But I didn't snap. I kept calm, knowing I'd soon turn the tables. A few weeks later, I had enough. I confronted them in the living room. My wife was painting her nails, my daughter scrolling on her phone. I stood before them and said, "I've spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce." My wife's eyes widened. She tried laughing it off. "You won't go through with it. You'd lose everything." "Don't be stupid." I shot back. "I'm not losing everything. I have evidence of your affair, your financial demands, and I've made arrangements. I've already separated funds. You'll be served papers by the end of the week." My daughter jumped up, shouting, "You can't leave us. You have to pay for my education, my car. You promised." I eyed her coldly. "I promised support when I believed we were a family built on trust. You lied to me, hid your mother's affair, mocked me. I owe you nothing now. You're an adult. Find your own way." She turned red, furious tears in her eyes, but behind the rage, I saw fear. She realized I wasn't bluffing. My wife tried to threaten me, screaming that she'd claim I was abusive, unfit. She tried to tarnish my reputation. I expected this. My lawyer had warned me. "If you try," I said calmly, "I have saved text messages, financial records, screenshots of your affair partner's communications, even proof of my good standing at work. You won't win by lying in court." They didn't back down easily. My wife paced the room, hurling insults, flipping between anger and desperation. "You'll ruin our daughter's future," she cried, waving her arms dramatically. My daughter folded her arms, glaring at me. "You're supposed to take care of us. That's what a father does. You can't just bail." There was pure entitlement. They viewed me as a wallet with legs, nothing more. I refused to engage in another shouting match. I said, "This isn't about leaving you destitute. It's about cutting off those who betrayed me. I'll follow the law and pay what's fair, but I'm not funding your luxuries while you walk all over me." My daughter scoffed. "You owe me my education." I stared at her. "No, I don't. You're 20, old enough to understand right from wrong. You chose to side with your mother's affair partner over your own father. Actions have consequences." Over the next week, the divorce papers were served. My wife's reaction was immediate panic. She tried sweet-talking me in the evenings when my daughter wasn't around. "Maybe we can work this out," she said, inching closer, batting eyelashes. "Think about the family. We can move past this." I shook my head. "You destroyed our family the moment you treated me like a fool." Her charm vanished, replaced by snarling threats. "You'll regret this," she warned. "I'll make sure everyone knows how selfish you are." As we moved through the initial stages of the divorce process, my lawyer made it clear that since my daughter was an adult, no court would force me to pay for her college or support her financially beyond what I voluntarily offered. For spousal support, the court would consider my wife's ability to work and our assets. I had been smart, shifting money into personal accounts and documenting everything. She wouldn't be able to claim ignorance or strip me of everything. My daughter realized too late that she'd backed the wrong horse. She tried a new approach, crocodile tears. One afternoon, while my wife was out, she approached me in the hallway, voice trembling. Dad, I'm sorry. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I studied her face. For a moment, a sliver of compassion tugged at me. But then I remembered her text to the affair partner, her mocking tone, her demands. You knew exactly what you were doing, I said quietly. You covered for your mother because it suited you. You wanted easy money, gifts, and now that it's gone, you're begging? No. She tried another dirty trick the next day, telling relatives that I'd gone crazy, that I was punishing her for no reason. But these relatives knew me well. I showed one of my brothers-in-law the evidence. He nodded grimly, understanding I wasn't the villain. Word spread quietly among extended family. Some stayed neutral, others expressed sympathy. No one rushed to defend my wife and daughter once they saw the proof of their entitlement and manipulation. When my daughter realized the sympathy angle wasn't working, she threatened to take my last name off her social media, to disown me publicly. I didn't flinch. Do what you want. I'm rewriting my will anyway, I told her. I'm removing you completely. That's permanent. She blanched. You can't. I shrugged. Watch me. The highlight of my revenge came when we reached a settlement. My lawyer and I presented a fair division of marital property. My wife's lawyer tried to push for more, citing her contributions as a homemaker. I had evidence, though, bank statements showing I funded everything, text messages proving her affair was ongoing and shameless. Facing a potential court battle that could expose her lies, she settled on modest terms. Not the windfall she expected. When the divorce decree was finally signed, my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, stared at me in disbelief. She ended up with a fraction of what she'd expected. No generous alimony, just a modest amount reflecting her limited employment history and a small portion of our joint savings. She'd have to find work if she wanted to maintain any kind of lifestyle. The affair partner, from what I'd heard through quiet whispers, wasn't stepping up to fund her desires. He'd vanished once he realized I'd called their bluff. My daughter stood off to the side, arms crossed, glowering as we left the lawyer's office. I paused, looked her in the eye, and said, "From here on, you're on your own. I'm updating my will and removing you as a beneficiary. My estate, what I build from now on, none of it goes to you." She trembled with rage. "I'm your child. You can't just cut me out." I tilted my head. "You chose to help your mother betray me. You showed me what loyalty means to you. I'm simply returning the favor." She tried one last ploy. "Maybe I'll sue for inheritance rights." But she was grasping at straws. My lawyer had already explained that here, adult children have no guaranteed inheritance rights. Without being named in the will, she had no claim. My daughter huffed and stomped away, muttering curses. I felt a strange calm settle over me. A door closing, perhaps. Not the ending I ever imagined for my family, but a just one. In the weeks after, I took steps to rebuild my life. I changed bank accounts, revised my will, and focused on my work and personal growth. My ex-wife made a few attempts to contact me, whining voicemails about how unfair it all was, begging for just a little help. I ignored them. The restraining order I requested wasn't necessary yet, but my lawyer prepared the documents in case she escalated. Without my financial support, her entitlement meant nothing. My daughter tried to stir trouble online, posting rants about her deadbeat father who abandoned her. I quietly documented these posts. If she tried a legal move, I'd show them as proof of harassment. When no one came to her rescue, no payday, no sympathy, her accusations fizzled out. Extended family mostly kept their distance. Those who cared to know the truth already saw the evidence. They understood why I had done what I did. I'm not going to lie and say this was easy. Discovering that two people I loved had zero respect for me was painful. But I learned something. I learned that standing up for myself, even when it tears apart familiar bonds, can be necessary. Entitlement feeds on compliance. It shrivels when faced with firm boundaries. I refused to keep playing the role they assigned me. By doing so, I reclaimed my dignity and secured my future from their greed. As I settle into my new normal, quiet evenings, honest friendships, and financial freedom, I feel oddly grateful for the clarity. I know exactly who deserves my kindness and who doesn't. Life's too short to reward betrayal. Justice doesn't always mean mercy. Sometimes, it means shutting the door firmly in a betrayer's face and walking away with your head held high. If you found this story satisfying, if watching the entitled fall flat on their faces brought a bit of cathartic joy, go ahead and subscribe. Trust me, there's plenty more where that came from.